Hi guys, my name's Ellie, welcome to my channel, and today we are doing a palette focus on the new Tarte Pro Remix. This part is kind of cool, how the things shift for the different angles. I'm trying to figure out, yeah, there's the win. But that makes it kind of feel funny, so I could potentially do without it. If I could get it open, that would be helpful. So, I have not played with it yet, but this is the inside. I've seen some complaints about the packaging, and yeah, I think it would have potentially done better to keep it, because it is the Pro Remix palette. There's just like this little overlay that they pressed on top, which is not even fully lining up with all the circles type situation, and the same with the top. They took the same packaging for the Pro Remix and put this on like a sticker that they adhered to it. So maybe I can pull it off. I won't mess with that today before I even get into the shadows. But since this is Tarte attempting to be more colorful, I thought we'd sit down, do my makeup, and chat about brands attempting to change what their thing is. With Tarte, Tarte's kind of thing is neutrals. And them trying to branch out and involve more color, and how that affects the influencers that are promoting them. Because we had a similar but kind of backward situation recently with Sugar Pill, where the owner decided to do a collab palette with her husband, which I'm sure I know his name. Released his drag name because he's a drag queen, and I've seen him, and they came out with the Oh Honey palette, which was very, very neutral, especially for Sugar Pill standards, and you had, it gave me a giggle. It shouldn't have, but it gave me a giggle. So I'm going to start with Mixed Media, which is just a beige shade to set my lid. That's kind of dark. Oh, it applies just fine. Okay. So yeah, when you have a brand that has set themselves either up as, Tarte is kind of like your go-to neutrals, your very easy makeup that's kind of just like throw it on and go. And like they've had some color in their other palettes, but it's been more of a pop of color and not what they were aiming for was a colorful palette. Which is what they are trying to do here, where they're like, the Pro Remix, we're bringing out the color, we're giving people what they wanted, which, to be fair, it does have some blues and greens, which was something that people wanted from Tarte after that April Fool's palette debacle. Okay, that is set. I am going to run over my brow bone with this little satin satin shimmery powder, because I'm going to be panning it, and it makes quite a good, kind of like brow bone highlight situation. So Tarte's go-to has been neutrals, various neutrals. And they haven't really gone outside of that. Like, they've gone warm neutrals, they've gone a little more cool. Most of the stuff I have from them is cool or neutral. Let's start with Wall Art, which is this cooler beigey brown. Taupey brown, I guess. Let's chuck that in the crease. So, Tarte makeup, one of the things I really liked about it is so neutral. It really does just kind of, it blends really well, it mixes in with my skin tone quite well. It's very easy to throw it on and make a good look because they do keep them so simple, and it makes it a lot more approachable for other people who might want to try out their brand. It's not as intimidating to pull up a Tarte palette as it may be to open it up like a Sugar Pill palette. So if you're getting into makeup and you're looking for something you can wear pretty easily and that is a little easier to make quick looks out of, Tarte is a good company for you. But if you were looking for bright colors for, you know, inspiring color stories, it's not going to be there. That's not their thing. They've done some quite nice color stories, but they've all been either behind the trend, so when they came up with the warm stuff that was behind the trend, or it's just so standard. I'm going to go with the same color under my eye. That it's nice and it's lovely and it makes a really pretty look, but it doesn't exactly inspire anybody to do anything other than really soft, lovely, natural looks. Not saying that somebody who has the inspiration can't make a bolder look out of it. But the looks that they come up with are generally just really easy. Like this is so far pretty easy. Things I want to do with this. So, I'm going to dip into a other palette over here just for some of the dark brown, because this does not have a dark matte brown. I've already used the two mattes, so... Oh, and it has a black, but that's a little darker than I want to go. So we're going to pick up some dark brown out of here, just to kind of deepen up the crease. So yeah, Tarte is not known for color. Tarte is known for very standard neutral, easy, wearable makeup. You know I don't like wearable, but you know what I mean. And then they decide that, you know what, people have asked for those, that, you know, we made that jokey blue palette, blue and green palette, and people want more of it. And so they decided to come out with something like this. They've been hinting at other colors throughout the year, and honestly, like, the marketing will be a lot brighter than the actual palette comes out. Because, yeah, so far this is something I could put a bronze on the lid, wear it to work, and nobody would think this is anything new, anything... Yeah. Okay. So let's get into the colors I want. I kind of want to do... I really want to use Color Explosion because it's a gorgeous green. And I think maybe Artist and Outside the Line, so I'm thinking yellow to green to blue. So, let's see what color application options I have. Make sure I have enough brushes over here to do what I want to do. Okay. I think I'm going to start by putting the Color Explosion on the center of the lid and work from there, inwards and outwards. Because, like, this looks like a gorgeous color, but let's see. It does apply quite nice. The danger you have with brands that are not used to color, making colors, is that the formula might not be up to par. Because Tarte has what I like in a formula, but their formula has been aimed at neutrals. And neutrals, you have a lot more wiggle room. You really want them to blend out. You want them to be potentially a little bit more soft, a little bit easier to blend. And by doing that, you take that same type of formula for a bright color. It comes out washed out or faded, and it loses a lot of the vibrancy that makes it the draw of the color. Okay, so back into that. So you have this brand that brings out a joke palette. Here's, okay, everybody wants greens and blues. And so they start working on it. They start working on something like this that's going to put more color into their brand because they're like, you know what? People are asking for it. Let's do it, which is a good response. So now we're going to pick up artist and put that on the outer third. Ooh. Well, that's quite nice. That's gorgeous. Anyways, you get these brands that say, okay, well, we've been doing neutrals, we've been doing this. People say that they want this from us, so let's make it happen. And it takes them a while to get the colors formulated, to get, you know, luckily it looks like they did do the thing where they made sure that the formula worked with the colors. They didn't just take their normal formula and pretend to throw some blues in it and hope that it was good, because formulating blues and greens is quite hard, and getting them where you want them can take a lot. Because if you have a browns and golds, they're a little bit more forgiving. And you really want that opacity when you're dealing with bright colors. So this is outside the line, so we're just going to pat that right there. Ooh. That's gorgeous. So anyway, the fun thing for me has been the fact that when they bring out this thing, they already have a set of influencers and people on their PR list who fit their previous aesthetic of this, you know, beachy, really easy, simple makeup. It's so gorgeous, and you're just, you know, just enhancing your natural beauty, which you should be doing anyway, because your makeup is not about making you look like a different person. It's about making you look like a whatever version of you want to be that day. I just like to layer stuff. Anyway, you get this situation where these people who got into a good relationship with Tarte because they were doing neutral looks, because they were making lovely looks out of a neutral palette, being thrown color, which is not necessarily something they're comfortable with, that they now have to try and do. Yeah, I really like the green, so I'm trying to like make sure it doesn't get lost between the two. So you have these influencers that are not used to trying to work with color, doing like these looks and be like, oh my god, color explosion. And they're using like every more easy to use neutral color in here plus one pop of color, instead of some of the gorgeous looks that you can use multiple colors for. And for somebody who has done both very neutral looks and very colorful looks, it's funny, because this would have been your chance to reach out to YouTubers that do brighter colors, that do more unique looks, and really involve them in the change and make it something interesting. Instead, you have people who are trying to sell a bright or colorful palette that aren't doing colorful makeup, that aren't doing anything interesting. They're doing the stuff that people have already been able to come up with on their own looking at the palette. Yeah, I can use, you know, one green, I can use one purple, I can make a pop here and pop there, but making a complex look out of multiple brighter colors that is interesting and inspiring is not the strong suit of these YouTubers. So I'm going to use Moonlit as an inner corner highlight and see what happens. You had the same situation with Sugar Pill. Most of the people who are getting PR from Sugar Pill and are on really good terms with them are because they're using the gorgeous bright colors that Sugar Pill makes on a day-to-day basis. They're doing bright, colorful looks. They're doing interesting... Oh, that's a really nice gold. They're doing things that inspire people to pick up that shadow and buy it and wear it and be unique. But then you saddle those people who are used to using bright colors, who are used to using, you know, really, really big, bold looks, and say, here's a neutral palette. And then you see these people who are just, it's not their wheelhouse, it's not something they do all the time. They're used to using bright, colorful things, and then they're trying to, like, look how nice my makeup is, when you can kind of tell that they're just doing the best they can with colors that they don't really feel like working with. They're working with them because they want to maintain a good relationship with the brand, but it's not their go-to. And like all of the Tarte little tutorials on these have been, you know, like one color, one of the bright colors, or like, oh, we'll use it as a pop on the lower lash line, which everybody and their mother by now has been doing for a long time. And it's just, it makes me laugh a little bit, because this was a chance for both of those brands to collaborate with people that weren't previously on their radar and expand their influence. Because if you see somebody who does neutral makeup all the time, you know, that's why you watch them, because you do neutral makeup and you like having same. And then, you know, you'd never really thought of Sugar Pill, you've never really been into it, and then they get a palette, and it's finally a Sugar Pill palette that you are interested in, and that person that you really appreciate the reviews of or like watching uses it and makes some gorgeous neutral looks out of that, you know, oh honey palette, you're more likely to pick up that palette. Whereas the people who are, you know, trying to pitch this palette to their subscribers who are subscribing to them because they do bright colorful makeup and they're getting these really neutral standard looks, or like the most creative look that somebody could potentially even try and make out of it because they're trying to do something with it, it ruins it, because that person is not likely to, that's not the subscriber base that you want to really market that to. Yes, they probably already have neutrals in their collection because everybody somewhere has neutrals, but the draw of that neutral palette and how you market it has a lot to do with who actually gets involved with your company. And it might be something where they pick up the Oh Honey palette and they're like, you know, maybe I'll try one of those bright colors, and it starts their interest in Sugar Pill's formula and their brand and all of that. Same thing with Tarte. Most people know about Tarte by now, but they know them as neutrals. So if you had given this to people who were maybe not like full-blown, like bright, exotic makeup looks, but people who did a little bit more color, a little bit more unique looks outside of the neutral sphere, and gotten them in on this palette, and gotten that person who says, you know, normally Tarte's too bland for me, but I picked up this palette and I wanted to show it to you guys. This was your chance to involve a different aspect of the makeup community in your marketing and get them interested in your brand, because you do have some nice colors. Like, I have the Tarte holiday palette as well, Pineapple of Your Eye, and like, there are some colors. Most of it's neutral, but you do have some blues and greens, you have some reds, some colors that could be interesting and brought up, but people aren't looking at it because they're seeing one color and saying, it's just one pop. But if you get them in on the multiple pop palette, you get them interested in the formula, and this is a really nice formula. These four worked really, really well. That's how you get people to buy into your choice for bright colors, because this is by no means a bright palette for me. If I can get it open. It's pretty, but it's doing the pop effect just a couple more times. Like, this green is a pop, this purple's a pop, the red's kind of a pop, the yellow's kind of a pop, but most of these are still pretty standard neutral colors. Like, you have the blue-brown pigment over here, and that's like the most overdone duochrome. And I'm not buying this palette because I'm super, super into it and it's so pretty. I'm buying it because I do think Tarte could do some better things with their formula. I think they could incorporate more colors, and buying this palette for me says, yes, Tarte, keep going, run along, try further, keep going. But if you don't encourage them at the small steps of adding in, you know, a brighter palette for them, I feel like they might get discouraged and not keep going. And I think if they had done the marketing a little differently and brought in some new faces, some people who do more colorful looks, some people who have the type of subscribers and influence that will potentially sell this palette, as opposed to the same old people who've been buying Tarte for generations, that they already have all the other Tarte ones, and they buy Tarte because it's neutral, not because they want a bright more color. You need to be exposing new people to your brand. You're not really doing that. So, I've ranted. I have to go finish my makeup, and I'll be back with the finished look. But this is the eyes. That is a really nice, opaque, crisp formula. So, this is the finished look in slightly better lighting. I really like how it turned out. I think the shadows performed really, really well. I think they're a nice, pigmented, opaque formula that blended quite well and are still looking gorgeous. I personally have had a good giggle watching influencers that are trying to promote and sell a palette that is really outside their wheelhouse and would potentially have been a good chance for the brands to involve other parts of the beauty community to move things that just really don't fit the style of a lot of people that are on their promotion and influencer team. So, let me know down below if you've seen some things like that, or if you've really noticed just the struggle that some of them have had trying to make a look or really like sell a palette that's honestly not something they're super comfortable with or inspired by, because some of them are really just not inspired by these types of looks. I have to go. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you next time.